with delay on we apologize on the delay of the transition of our programming. But here we go. The French Embassy in Kampala, Uganda, located at plot 16 Lumumba Avenue, the only diplomatic mission representation in Uganda, is spearheading a campaign of celebrations dubbed Uganda French Week. So we want to understand the essence of this week, but also the status and quality of our bilateral relations between Uganda and France. And I guess you're also very interested. So thank you for joining us. We're coming to you live from the Kampala International Conference Center. I'm Karagawa Baldwins. And with me, I'm joined by a resplendent team representing this cause. And just to my immediate right, I have the Honorable Stephanie Rivaux, the very flamboyant and exuberant ambassador of France. I've watched you. I've seen how you talk, how you move. You're extremely energetic and passionate. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Yes. And with me, I have a compatriot, just the extreme left, right, rather, Mr. William Bleak. He's the President, Uganda Olympics Committee. William, how are you?
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Stefan, let's start with this. Let's first clear the French-Uganda relationship week. What's it about and why there's so much hype, the public relations, the marketing that is going in it? What is special about it and what are you doing?
Well, we tried to initiate something different in the diplomatic sector, and we thought, okay, we're not going to talk about France only, we're going to talk about the relationship between France and Uganda. So we said, okay, what do we have in common? And we thought possibly we have sports certainly in common, and we have the food interest, the tourism, and the defense, and also some academic relations, and this year it was all about fashion. So we together, when I met with William Bleak and pitched my idea to him about having sport and diplomacy to meet together, he said, let's go ahead and have a football match. And that was last year. This year we're going to do the rugby match. And you said I was energetic, but have you met Mr. Bleak?
Of course.
Okay, because when you meet with Mr. Bleak, you realize that I'm possibly energetic, but meeting this man,
he's 200%
honestly, yeah,
more
definitely. I mean, he's even more than me. So we said, okay, let's have a full week to promote, not France, I want to be very clear about that. It's France and Uganda and what we do together, what we share. So the entire week is about this relationship, this friendship that we have between two countries, very far away. We don't share so much of an history. And I believe that we can even strengthen our relations from now on.
Okay, just slightly, besides the week, so help us. Okay, so the week is at least extrapolated. How long is it taking? It was from
Saturday to Saturday, French language, tourism and environment. Yesterday, that's why we look this way, a bit tired. We had a fine dining event. Then we have the fashion that took place even on Tuesday. And then we have defense, celebrating the defense relation, military and security relation this evening, sports, and finally, and I would like everyone to join us, 24th of March at Chanondo Stadium, rugby and music.
Just slightly, if we delve into the actual background bilateral relations before I come to Bleak. So what development partnerships are we having? Let's leave alone now the week. It's understandable. Okay. You're trying to celebrate the relationship. So what is there that we are doing between France and Uganda?
And development, if we talk about that, we have our agency of development who have so many programs. A lot of them are focused on water treatment. If you know about the GABA water treatment for Kampala, it has been done with the support of the French government. There has to be something along the lines of energy production, electricity. We also want to protect the biodiversity in Mboro Lake National Park. So we have this relationship around development, but it's not only that. We share also a very strong relationship about defense. I think we share concerns about the security, about terrorism, and Uganda is pivotal in this action that we have in the region, because from Somalia all the way to France, there is a threat. We share that concern and we're fighting that together.
And so what is in for you? What is the quid pro quo? Because we are seeing France really intensify since you're coming here. There's been so much enlightenment about France and Uganda relations. So what is it need for you in this relationship? Because there's suspicion in the public, like some of us now who watch from the distance, we feel because Uganda has struck oil and there's gas, you are having an eye on oil and gas, that's why you're being too...
I come from a business background, and of course it's interesting. We have threefold interest in Uganda. We don't directly benefit from the oil and gas. It's dealt by private companies. The government has no stake in the oil and gas as per se, because the total interest in the oil and gas project is not owned by the French government. It has been 20 years ago, but at the moment Total is not a government-owned company. So it's a purely private enterprise. But we have three interests. And number one is about the security and stability. We don't want the world as a whole to become one of terror, one of insecurity, and Uganda has been very strong in that department, very strong army, very strong security interest, and we have to be very clear, we do share that concern. We are together, we are partners on that department. Then we have, of course, a development, I said that, and we want to push some values. Protection of the environment is another. We share one planet. If we don't protect it together, what is it for me? Well, to protect my own citizens from climate change. And the third one is the economics. I'm going to be very clear. Of course, we have a lot of interest for French companies, and I'm the one bringing them here to benefit from the opportunities. But when I talk to them, I say, we are different. We have a French philosophy. We don't come, do, and go. We come, we hire, we train, and we stay. So I'm very focused about the local content of these French companies, and I will push them to hire Ugandan people, train Ugandan people, protect the environment, and be particularly responsible when they come here to Uganda. That's what's in it for me.
Okay, wonderful response. William, I've not forgotten you. So you are the president of the Uganda Olympics Committee.
Yes.
Sounds a very grand position you hold. But of course, somebody would ask themselves, what is the connection between Olympics, or the Olympics Committee, and the French embassy or the French ambassador? What is going on between you and France?
When I met the ambassador, when she had just come to Uganda, she had an idea of how do we celebrate the good things of Uganda and France. And we decided to use sport with diplomacy to try and bring the best.
It's called sports diplomacy.
Absolutely. It's a new concept I think she's started. But using sport and diplomacy, we've been able to celebrate the good things that France and Uganda cherish. And on the first day we had, the French language, and we had very many citizens that are in Uganda that speak French. My daughter is studying French in the French school. So we had a lot of people on the first day celebrating Francophone Day. On the second day, we had tourism, which of course tourism is a big industry for Uganda. France has probably one of the largest numbers of tourists visiting the country. So as Uganda, we want to learn how France is able to get so many tourists, and how the key influential operators have come to Uganda and are going to go back and be able to show the world what Uganda and how beautiful Uganda is. We don't market our own country, but the people from Europe can actually market it better than us. So they've come in, courtesy of this particular program, to be able to show the world how beautiful, how safe Uganda is, and the opportunity Uganda has as a tourist destination. And very many other activities are taking part. And what the ambassador has said, they're actually empowering Ugandans. Yesterday, chefs who were the best, and these are Ugandan chefs, they're going to be taken to France. They're going to have an opportunity to be in a top school for cuisine, and they will be able to bring back that knowledge to Uganda.
Actually, cuisine, I think, comes from French language.
Absolutely.
But at times it's mixed up and people think it's an English term.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the same thing with fashion, and so on and so forth. So this partnership is empowering Ugandans. So we're using sport, of course, as a platform, because sport appeals to everybody.
Universal.
And France is a very big sporting nation. They're going to be hosting the Olympic Games in 2028, Rugby World Cup 2023, and it's endless what France does with sport. And Uganda is a sport-loving nation. So we thought this partnership will be very well cemented with sport as a platform and of course diplomacy, and everything else around that can be able to feed into it. And this, I think, is the first of its kind in Africa. probably in the world.
Possibly.
And the IOC, International Olympic Committee, is actually watching this partnership of diplomacy and sport and other things that can come
and they're
from
watching this show.
sport. And they're going to be watching this show. So
Okay,
this is key for us, and it's a
Alright.
very exciting project.
Yes.
And we're very happy to the people of France for opening their arms and being able to take on Uganda as a country and exposing Uganda. I think exposure is something we lack in Uganda. And when you have a big country like France opening its doors in the various sectors, we are to benefit from this partnership. And I think it will live for a very long time.
Okay, thank you indeed. Now, Stefan. Stephanie. Okay.
Otherwise, I would turn myself into a man. Stefan is a male name, actually.
Okay,
But
this is a technical.
I'm not taking any offense here. This is Stephanie.
Okay, Stephanie. Now, there is seemingly a regression in the appeal of the French language. Several countries, actually, that were subscriptive of your very country's dialect are withdrawing, including our neighbor, Rwanda, and they're opting for English. In Uganda, I think just quite a few years ago, there was such a robust lingual intensity about French, okay? Right now, I think my feeling is that French is waning. It's no longer appealing. People are not interested. And I can hear you speak such very decent, meticulous, English. Seemingly, you're also feeling that you need. And so, what is going on? It seems you're losing the linguistic influence and cultural appeal.
It's a very interesting point, and my president, no later than yesterday, made a speech about Francophonie. Well, the way I see it, it's very simple. Africa is gonna be the continent where the battle about the French language is going to be either won or lost. To me, I want the world looking in 2050 to be an African continent where 50% of the people will speak French and 50% English as a native language, but all of them will be speaking the two. I think it's very important to understand that the French language is spoken on the African continent most. There's 250, even more possibly, people speaking French in the world, and the majority are in Africa. The point I'm making is Ugandan should definitely learn French for one very reason. Your neighbors, Rwanda is one, but look at Congo. And look at the size of these two countries and the number of inhabitants, and look at Congo, Brazzaville, and Senegal, and Ivory Coast, and everything else going on the western part of the African continent. You do want to interact and to speak to your brother and sisters of the continent in Africa, and that's where your interest is. You need to trade between these countries. You need to interact between these countries on the African continent. It's not about the Canada or the very small country that French represents. It's only 66 million people. We are fairly small. But what I would like to see happening is Ugandan learning the French language and Senegalese learning the English language so that you can interact. Look at how many dialects do you have in Uganda? Do you know?
Plenty of them.
Plenty of them. Do you want to lose them all and
No,
everyone to be uniformed around one language? No. You don't want that, because that's a wealth of a country as well. So let's make a push, and we are going to try at the French embassy to make a push. The issue we have is money, like so many countries. We can't teach French as we are up there in Europe, all over the world. So I'm thinking the energy has to be shared and the effort has to be shared with all of you, all of us. So Uganda can certainly benefit from the French language. It provides business opportunities because of the oil and gas that you mentioned, but also jobs at the United Nations, job on the other side of the African continent. So I'm thinking it's an opportunity. When you want a job, you want to have as many assets as possible in your pocket. And I believe French language is one of them.
Wow, okay.
I was just going to add to that the French language is the international language to have with English when you go across the world.
Actually, there are six international United Nations languages: English, Spanish, French, inclusive, of course, Portuguese, and yeah. So you're still there on the international realm. Okay, yeah. So Arthur Blake, rather. So
William, yes.
I apologize on that.
No. So Stefan and
the reason I mentioned Arthur, he knows why
my brother.
I got that mistake. So we have a collaboration in sports diplomacy with France. There's a great improvement, of course, in the rugby sport. We are really competitive now on the international stage. Help us understand how we're benefiting from this relationship. Besides, perhaps I'm not sure whether the performance of rugby is really contributive to their input, but are we having a very substantive gain?
First of all, this particular partnership has allowed grassroots sports development. So from last year, we were able to raise money and buy sports equipment for 4 Uganda police schools and 2 KCCA schools. We've started with the John Akibua legacy, and part of the proceeds were to go into schools, buy sports equipment, and for sustainability, we've added coaches to go back to these schools. So we're looking at grassroots development. This year, we're going to increase the schools and have more schools on the program. So this program is actually putting in sports equipment and coaching at grassroots levels, and we're trying to create centers of excellence for primary schools. But we're starting with police, because police, if you go across the world, is actually a hub for sportsmen, because the police can actually employ sportsmen to do sports, unlike other companies and other industries. So we started with that. So that's one element. This particular partnership is allowing Ugandans to learn the French language, as the ambassador explained. So it's not just the sporting people who are going to have an opportunity to learn French, but you've got the people in the catering, and those are the people who are going to France. You've got, there's a program that's going to start with Uganda Police as well, which is tourism police and learning French. So this program is not just sports, but it's giving an opportunity to the different industries to learn the French language and be able to communicate internationally. So it's not just sports, but it's helping a number of different industries. Eventually, this program will help the grassroots development of sports in the country. When I talk of grassroots, that's not an immediate impact. But for us who are in sports, it's the foundations that are most important. And this is the path that we're taking.
And our Olympics cloud, how are we doing on our Olympics competitiveness? Because you're the president, and I just need to about a minute or two. How competitive are we? What are you developing? What is our strength now?
I think we've started to talent identify younger athletes. If you look at our core strengths are in athletics and boxing. But if you look at athletics today, they're qualifying 17, up from 12 in 2012. The next Olympics, we're hoping to qualify 33 to 34 athletes. On the African continent, we were 7th largest contingent. We won a gold medal at the last edition, which were in London. In Brazil, we're unfortunate. But as we speak today, we've got 2 world champions in 10,000 meters and in the, I think, 5,000 as well. And if you saw the World Cross Country Championships, we had a gold medal here. We could have had 2 gold medals. So I think at the next games, realistically, we could win 2 medals. But it's not just the systems that we have. There needs to be more government input in terms of infrastructure and equipment and exposure of teams and so on and so forth. So it's a bit more than what we're looking at. But all in all, I think the Olympic Committee will be performing better. We're going to the Commonwealth team. We have the largest, one of the largest contingents, up from 68. We're now taking 111 with 23 officials. So we are performing better. More money is being put in. And with this particular Uganda-France Friendship Week, we want to forge a partnership with France Olympic Committee and of course the Rugby Union of France, so that we can develop grassroots development.
Oh, thank you. Now, so Ambassador, let's talk about political diplomacy here. To many Ugandans, foreign missions in our country actually have become a problem, especially in the mutinous against political misbehavior and injustice over politics, especially, you know, government engagements. For instance, in 2016, the European Union and Commonwealth election observer groups described the 2016 elections as short of being free and fair, They condemned the actions of the police prior to voting and on polling day. They cited that the polls were eclipsed by an atmosphere of intimidation and further concluded that that the Election Commission lacked the required independence and transparency, which explains why it does not have the trust of the stakeholders. Now, the Commonwealth, of course, Election Observer Mission, led by former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo, also made the same assertion. So we're asking ourselves, why does the French government continue to work with the Ugandan government by financing and enabling it, yet it knows that the Uganda's electoral process that brought the government in power were abused against the will of our people, as stated by different court processes here of the Supreme Court? So don't you think it exhibits a degree of diplomatic dishonesty and hypocrisy from the French government as you continue to do that?
You really want to offend me this morning?
No, I'm putting the facts out there.
Dishonesty? Well, I don't think that's true. Number one, the EU observers came back 2 weeks ago. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. So they're back here. And when you have, we're celebrating a friendship. When you have a friend, you want to continue to be talking to one another. You don't want to offend one another. You want to respect one another. And it's because we have this type of relationship between Europe and Uganda that we are continuously dialoguing and having discussion between ourselves. So they came back. They met with His Excellency the President and a number of ministers, including also the Electoral Commission, the Attorney General, and all these people from the EU. They came. They were welcome in Uganda, and we have a continuous dialogue on how to improve the way elections are held in Uganda. But I would like to quote my president on this one. When he had limited experience in diplomacy because his focus was more on business. But he's been brilliant as his diplomacy first steps. And he was in Egypt when he welcomed the General al-Sisi, the president of Egypt. And he said, "Who am I to tell you how to run your country?" And I would like to say that France shall not give any lessons to anyone. If someone has to deal with the way Uganda is run, it's the Ugandans.
Okay, so
you have a voting right, don't you? You do have a voting right.
Absolutely,
so you have to use it. You have a voice, especially as a journalist.
Yes.
That's your job to push through the issues and put here on your TV screen the right people to have this type of discussion among Ugandans.
Yes.
What we're here is to promote our values, of course, but in a way which is extremely respectful of the way Uganda is run. You have to also realize your own history. This country is 50-year-old. You've been through numerous of internal conflicts, pretty violent one. And over 50 years, now Uganda is seen as a stable country among many pretty troublesome neighbors. So be careful what you wish for.
Okay, I wasn't wishing for anything. I'm actually wishing that there is a very clear stand on what is regarded as being indecent politics. And I think the diplomatic relationships should be pretty balanced, so that if you have values that you believe in, there should be. Okay, your last shot, Ambassador.
The very important thing you need to understand about diplomacy, there is what we can say on a TV set, and there are the numerous discussions that will go on. And because we enjoy a very strong and friendly relationship with Uganda, we are able to pass on messages, to also interact with our counterparts. I'm the representative of my government, and I'm so happy that I can have that access. And there's many discussions going on.
Okay, thank you.
That you don't know of.
Absolutely understand, and thanks for clearing. But you need to make sure that the public actually trusts you, because you're trying to generate a social diplomacy through these activities. So if people do not have a clear perception of you as being authentic, it will be quite...
I'm quite an authentic person,
all right. Thank you indeed.
What would you say, William? Am I authentic?
Very authentic.
Okay. So Stéphane Rivoll, Ambassador of France to Uganda, and William Blick, President of the Uganda Olympics Committee, very delighted indeed to have had you on this discussion. We wish you the best in all your efforts, and thanks for the great job that you're doing. And
I hope you'll be there on Saturday.
Then we plan to be there.
So that you can see what's happening exactly.
Okay, thank you indeed. And our viewers, thanks for keeping with us. I'm Kaga Bodwins, and let's continue having a discussion about our bilateral relations, of course, and the international relations across the board. And let's support all our foreign missions that are here. We're continuing with live programming. I'm Kaga Bodwins, and keep watching NTV.